What's going on, guys? It is Justice here and welcome back to Runescape. So in today's video I'm going to be walking you through my tier 90 tectonic setup, everything that I went through in terms of from the cost of it to all the perks that I put on and why, to extra purchases such as a Nox staff to add to the magic setup in order to DPS more thoroughly. It's going to go through the cost of augmenting your tier 90 armor, the length of time approximately that it lasts, or at least how the charges work on the tier 90 armor. And yeah, I'm just going to be taking you through my journey. I did this about 2 weeks ago and it has been fun using the tier 90, and I was very surprised actually at how long it's lasted, and it still is well and truly lasting, but we'll get onto that later in the video. So to start off with, I went and bought the anime core bodies and the legs. I then bought 2 crests of Zaros, and now this is where it started costing me a bit of money here. So this is one of the most expensive perks you can purchase other than Biting 3. This perk is called Aftershock. Aftershock, it will deal 120% ability damage when it procs. It also deals damage to targets around you, so it can be an area of effect ability, which makes it very good for Slayer as well. But essentially it's one of the best DPS perks that you can put on your weapons these days, and in order to get it you have to break down Zaros armor that you can get from God Wars Dungeon 2, or you can purchase it from the Grand Exchange. Now, the idea is to purchase it. Well, the idea which I followed was to purchase it. I then went and leveled it up to level 9, whereby you can then dismantle it for 4 times materials. So that's what I did. Bought the crest, whacked them onto the armor pieces, went and leveled it up. Once I dismantled it, I was able to obtain 8 Ilujanka materials. You need 5 in order to make, in order to get a guaranteed Aftershock 3 perk for your weapon, and that's what I went and did first. Once I got the Aftershock perk, I then moved on to using augmentation dissolvers on my next armor, the tier 80 perked up gear, in order to get the original gear back, which once you dissolve the augmenter off the next armor, it also dissolves your perks as well, so it does it all for you. You don't have to go and get a gizmo dissolver as well, it just does it for you with the augmenter one. So once I got down to the broken state, I'd then have to repair the armor, which again was an additional cost. But once I repaired it, I then went and sold the next armor. This is on the day of release of when you could perk up tier 90. Next armor was crashing quite a bit on that day, but I decided just to sell it anyway because I needed the cash flow in order to purchase perks and things like that moving forward. But to be honest, the prices kept themselves quite reasonably high. 12 plate body, still very high. Legs went for quite cheap though. But yeah, honestly, I had no need in the next armor anymore because I was going to be augmenting my tier 90, and I only really do high level PvM in the game, or PvM as such in the game, whether that's casual or whether I go in and do duo Raxor or go and do small teams at Virago. So yeah, it depends on your approach to the game. If I was going to go and do some slaying though, I'd probably just buy the tier 80 God Wars 2 armor because that doesn't degrade at all. So yeah, leveled up my Zaros armor to level 9, almost ended up siphoning the armor, in which case I would have screamed louder than Thor, but luckily I stopped myself, and instead I just dismantled it. Got very close to 106 invention that I'll achieve later on. So let's move on to the most important part of today's video, which is the actual perks that I ended up putting onto my armor. Now, I could show you how, over about an hour of me just dismantling loads of different materials and making the perks, but instead I'm just going to quickly go through and summarize the different perks that I've got, why I've got them on different armor pieces, and then I'm also going to leave a spreadsheet down below in the description that actually, after perking up all of my armor pieces, I came across from a friend linking it to me. This was created by a guy called Underclaim, or his real name's Burn. I think he had the help of Mr. GW and Luke to make this spreadsheet. So I'll leave that in the description. That will help out a lot of people. It's like a Google Doc, and it'll go through all the different perks that you'd like to put on your armor piece. The only one I haven't covered on this channel yet is called Planted Feet. Quite a controversial perk, something which I'm probably doing in a separate video. Okay, so the main perk in the spotlight for today's video is Aftershock 3. This deals 120% base ability damage when it procs, and by proc, if no one's heard that saying before, it's essentially whenever an item has a special effect that comes with it, whether it's a passive effect or an active effect, when it actually activates, that is called procking. And so yeah, when it procs, it deals 120% damage. You want to have that on your main hand because you're not going to be switching your main hand out that much. So if you did have it on your offhand and you switch to your shield, you would lose the stacks and the effect, and it would take longer for it to proc in the future when you re-equip it. On the Singularity, I have a pretty standard weapon perk called Precise 5. Now to the armor gizmos and the armor perks. On one of the gizmos, I've got absorbative. You can have that on your top, but you can also swap that out completely for shield bashing 2, for example. The reason why you might want shield bashing on instead is because when you use debilitate, if you're doing duo or trio virago kills, then it'll have an increased damage output when you hit debilitate. It can be kind of okay, but I think absorbative is really nice to have because it reduces the damage that you take. So I have that on my top. I'll also put Crackling 3 on my top as well. It's very nice if you can manage to get Crackling 3 with Venom Blood, but that's very rare to get. And the reason I say that is because if you want to do this for a melee setup as well, you can just follow the exact same setup, and that's very nice for when you go and do a Raxor. Because if you're meleeing a Raxor, you can get poison damage throughout the fight, and this perk will prevent that damage. On the bottom armor gizmos for my tectonic legs, I've got Biting 2, and I've got Impatient 3 and Devoted 2. Impatient 3 on your armor will allow faster adren building. For example, a fantastic place for when this actually procs is at Duo Virago again when you're in phase 4. Because you'll insta-zerk with your partner, and if you're Impatient procs, then you can get a Hurricane combo out with your Assault, which makes it drop even quicker, and it's very nice to do that. Having Devoted 2 in combination with Impatient 3 on the same gizmo is also very nice because you'll take less damage, and when it procs it works like Devotion, but what makes this perk even better than the Devotion ability itself is that when it does proc, it'll even stop typeless damage like the bleeds at Virago. Now don't get me wrong, it will not get rid of the entire effect, so if you get a bleed straight afterwards and you just stand there, then you'll get hit 4.5k or 6k, whatever. But at least if you do mess up somewhere throughout the kill or elsewhere, wherever there is typeless damage, then it'll also stop that. I don't know whether that's just an issue with the way it was coded, but it's pretty cool. The main addition to this armor in the future will be Biting 3, but in order to get that you need to break down Noxious components, but it might be a good time to do that now, considering Nox weapons are crashing like crazy since the news of tier 92 drops from Telos. But that's another whole topic that I will be covering hopefully before Telos is released on Monday. I will be covering off all the newfound information of the new rewards and the enrage system, the risk reward system that is going to be in place with the new solo boss. All that will be covered in a separate video. And yeah, just extra perks and stuff which I've already covered in previous videos. On my shields, I've got Turtling, and I've even got Turtling now on my Merciless because it actually lasts longer now since the shield nerf, so it's nice to have that when bomb tanking or base tanking at different places, or bomb tanking at Virago of course, and base tanking at raids. I also have a mobile perk on my Excalibur. Don't think I've covered that off previously, but I've had it on my Excalibur for months now. It's a beautiful perk to have, and essentially it reduces the cooldown of Surge, Barge, and Escape. So it can come in very handy on Path 3 at Raxor in particular, but anywhere where you Surge, even maybe going out of the tunnels at Rise of the Six, anything where you use Surge quite frequently, that can come in very useful, and I now have mobile Excalibur on most of my bank presets. And yeah, so that's pretty much my perk setup. I will go into actually how you augment tier 90 armor as well. Should have covered that off previously, just realized, so I'll cover that off now in terms of how many charges you need and the cost. But just before I go into that, I did end up selling my Singularity. You might see some sneak previews in the video, I'm not quite sure, of my loot tab, which I'm hoping to finish off as well this weekend. I just need a couple of bottom leg pieces, so I'm going to really grind out this weekend at Raxor, hopefully before Telos is released. Try and get those 2 extra bottom leg pieces, and then I can sell 2 full spider legs and the rest of my loot tab just to get that cash in order to buy a load of supplies in prep for Telos. So yeah, sold my Singularity, which surprisingly went for a lot more than I thought. It went for 20 mil over mid, about 164 mil. I then bought the Noxious Staff for about 155 mil, and then added another Aftershock perk, which cost me another 25 mil because I had to buy more Zaros, or I had to buy Zaros legs to level that up to level 9, get 4 times materials, for more Ilujanka materials to then make Aftershock 3. So I whacked that onto my Nox Staff, combined with Precise 5. That is now my magic setup. So I have my size 1 and shield for when I'm tanking, and then I have my Nox Staff now with Aftershock on for when I'm DPSing. And a primary reason for me going out of my way to actually get this setup going is because of what I've been up to the past 2.5 weeks on the actual game, which is Duo Virago. So I've been doing a lot of Duo Virago, and a progress video regarding that should be up on my channel in the next few days. Alright, so yeah, I've kind of done this video back to front. But yeah, we're actually going to go into now how you actually augment the tier 90 armor. So I found out that you can't use your existing armor pieces. So let's say you've already got tier 90 armor, which is already degraded, and you've used some of the charges. You won't be able to just augment that armor. You'll have to go and get a mate, go to the wilderness and get him to PK you or something. Remember, you have to attack first to get the skull on your head, and then don't make the same mistake as me and take your max cape as well and lose like 2 mil. Nope, just looks it up, it's like 2.6 mil rip bank, because all he got was about 2k from the drop, so yeah. But yeah, you need a brand new spanking piece of armor anyway to get this going. You need an augmentor, and you need a workbench. So you do need to go to your invention guild. By the way, quick tip, if you've got a 99 skill and you can get access to the max guild garden, you can alter the skilling portal directly to an invention guild. So you can go through there. It's a lot quicker if you have the max guild teleport. So yeah, you kind of have to be max to make it more efficient to get to the portal. But yeah, it's pretty useful instead of always going to the lodestones. Anyway, went to the workbench with an augmenter, and 36 divine charges for the top and the bottom, totaling up to 72 in your inventory as well. Once you click the workbench, you'll then have the option to click augmented gear, go into there and then create your augmented top and bottom. You can then start to add your armor gizmos to it from earlier. Once you augment the top and bottom, you'll have a total of 100,000 charges in each item. Once all of these charges run out, it will retain its equipment bonuses until it reaches level 10, where it will become unusable and can only be disassembled. So like tier 90 armor, when it's not augmented, that degrades to dust. With this, once the charges run out, it'll just become unusable. Of course, the top and legs will be reaching level 10 and 12 well and truly before it runs out of charges, multiple times in fact, and you will be able to keep siphoning that armor until all the charges run out. So you'll be able to gain experience throughout your journey of PvMing whilst using this armor. So in terms of how long this armor lasts for, this tier 90 armor, and how it degrades or how you lose charges. Essentially, this armor will last a minimum of 16.7 hours if you're getting hit or dealing a hit every single tick, which is 0.6 seconds. So to summarize that, every tick you deal a hit to a target or take a hit from one, you will lose a charge. And there's not that many situations where you're going to deal damage or take damage on every single tick within a fight. So that's 16.7 hours minimum. If you go to Virago, for example, it is going to last a very, very, very long time. And just to give you a rough idea, I've been doing Duo Virago for around 12 to 15 hours and it used up about 16.6 thousand charges out of the 100,000 charges. That's from doing 12 to 15 hours of Duo Virago. So it's definitely worth it in my opinion, and it lasts for a pretty decent amount of time. So yeah, Duo Virago progress will be out in a video soon. That is pretty much all the tier 90 stuff wrapped up now in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found it useful in any way, make sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. And if you are new here, feel free to subscribe for future content, and I'll see you all in the next one.